Let's blow your mind with some so cool science time. If dominant genes override recessive genes, why are there any recessive genes? Well, that's a wicked cool question, and I got a wicked cool way of showing you that you're more of a mutt than you actually think you are. You know, unlike my ex-wife, who is definitely a mutt, because I left her where I picked her up, at the pound. Because today, I'm going to show you the dominant and recessive genes that are in your face. And I bet you don't know how much you have of each. You know, like I don't know why I go to Walmart on a bike just to have the homeless people steal it. Mine. All right, so go ahead and get yourself a picture of you because we're going to label the dominant and recessive traits that you have in your face. If you have straight hair like mine, go ahead and label your hair with a R. And if you have curly hair, go ahead and label your hair with a D. If your earlobe is attached like mine, go ahead and add an R to your ear, and if it's dangling, go ahead and add a D. If you have brown eyes like I do, go ahead and label your eyes with a D. If you have blue or green eyes, go ahead and label it with an R. If you have a thin nose like I have, go ahead and label your nose with an R. If you have a much flatter or broader nose, go ahead and label it with a D. If you have dimples in your cheeks like I do, go ahead and label that with a D. If you don't, go ahead and label it with an R. If your skin tone is a light melanin like mine, go ahead and label it R. If you have more melanin in your skin, go ahead and label it D. And of course, here's the reveal, the dominant and recessive genes in my face. I actually have more recessive traits in my face than I do dominant ones. So, if dominant genes override recessive genes, why do we have recessive genes in our face? Well, don't look at me. Take a closer look at this. When we think of genetic heredity, we usually think of genes like a light switch, where the gene is either on or off. But in reality, traits are more like a large panel of judges voting yes and no. And it's a combination of those votes, such as the brown color in my eyes. Dominant genes are those traits that allow an organism to survive, such as hairlessness in humans. This is a biological evolutionary advantage. Less hair means more likely to spot parasites and thus slows the spread of disease. Melanin production in the skin is what's known as an environmental evolutionary advantage. Since bare skin is exposed to more direct sun radiation, the production of melanin reduces the damage deeper in the skin layers. Those humans with those traits pass on their genes in greater numbers. Recessive genes still exist because they are only masked by dominant genes and not deleted from the genetic code. Dominant genes usually produce a functional protein, while recessive alleles often make a non-functioning or weak product. A recessive trait might seem like it's a disadvantage or unneeded, but in reality it could prove to be an advantage if an evolutionary condition changed. Sickle-cell traits are recessive, but carriers have resistance to malaria. Recessive genes increase genetic variation, which is essential for a species' adaptation and survival over long periods of time. So now you know more about genetic alleles. You know, being able to see the dominant and recessive traits in your face right at home is why science dominates.